On today's episode of WatchJRGo, we are here with a supercharged V6, kind of a mini truck that I begged my mom not to buy, but it's here. What is going on, guys? I am WatchJRGo, and you just saw in the intro a nice comparison of what was an old, well, really a mini truck beside my current full-size truck, and I think it's pretty hilarious. The top of this thing only comes about halfway up on the windows on a truck from today's generation. So, back to this truck. This is a 2001 Nissan Frontier. Like I said, it is the supercharged Frontier, and it's one that my parents were buying, and they brought it to me for an inspection, and I said, please don't buy this truck. I looked over this truck, I hooked the scanner up to it, I pulled the codes, saw the work that was done on it, and it was absolutely a hack job of a flip, and it was sold, as you guys would assume, by a shady used car business. So it's a really small used car business that might sell a few cars a year. They have like 8 in inventory at any given time, and this just happened to be one of them. Now, my take on this truck is it's clearly something that this dealership bought for about $2,500, and they relisted it for, if I remember right, $6,000 or $6,500. And I said it's worth like 2,500 bucks. That's what I would want to pay for this. And they met in the middle, and my mom ended up buying this thing for about $5,000. It was $5,400 out the door with taxes and dealer fees, all that stuff. So obviously not too bad. That was some shrewd negotiation there. And the reason she bought it, her argument before she even left, was there are no more of these. We've been looking for a year. And it's true. It's impossible to buy a mini truck these days, other than the Maverick, and the Maverick was just out of the price range. I think it's probably the greatest small truck on the road. It does everything that anybody wants that wants a truck like this, because you either want to pull things and do actual work, or you want a Maverick, because it'll do everything else. Like, it'll haul groceries, it'll haul your TV. That's what those trucks are made for. They do a perfect job of that. I love the Maverick to death. These trucks were made for a different time period, when I guess TVs were smaller. That must be the reason the trucks were smaller. So that was the why, the answer to how did this end up in my garage, what it cost, and all that good stuff. So let's get into the what. Like I said, 01 Frontier. You can see right on the side, it is the V6 Supercharged D22 from Nissan. A truck that was sold internationally, and honestly, it probably sold pretty well. I mean, if you're selling this thing in, I don't know, 15 countries, you gotta be selling quite a few of them. And this one was one of the most expensive versions of the Frontier ever sold. Let me open the hood, and I will show you guys why. So, we've got simple old cable style hood pull here. You can see in just a glance that the headlights have been replaced with the cheap Amazon ones that will go bad very quickly, and they've definitely just been replaced. But under the hood here, we have the 3.3 liter V6 from Nissan. I think this is a VG33 with the supercharger on top. I'm not sure what the supercharger is, but it looks like every Eaton design there is. So it's probably like a Eaton M80 or something like that. It is a very, very small root style supercharger. In fact, the 3800 supercharger on the Grand Prix, I think is another, it's probably 2 inches longer than this one. So it is a supercharged V6. It does make a little bit of power, 210 horsepower and 231 foot-pounds of torque. That is detuned for the automatic transmission that backs this thing up. It's got a 4-speed hydraulic automatic in it, and it exists. I can't say much more about it. The only thing that the supercharger really does is when you touch the throttle, it kind of instantly has some throttle response there, because the supercharger makes that magic happen. This is non-intercooled, so all of that compressed air goes into the engine as heat, which does rob a ton of power out of this. No one would build anything like this today, because we know how bad this is for efficiency. Everybody would put a couple intercooler bricks in there and help cool that air off just a hair. So that's pretty much all there is to talk about under the hood. There's really nothing noteworthy in here. Just a simple 3 liter V6 with a distributor. One thing I do want to say before we close the hood is when this showed up, they clearly just replaced the plug wires, probably the plugs and the distributor cap, and the screws on the distributor had backed completely out when this thing showed up. I actually have a picture of they were probably on their last thread. So I tightened those down before she took it back to the dealership just to help them sell it to somebody else. But now it's here in my garage. It looks like the radiator was probably replaced at some point. That plastic looks a little bit newer. and I don't know why, but none of this was covered in white stuff, so some brine must have come off of the road somehow and got on all of this fresh stuff in here. It looks quite a bit worse, but we can clean all that up. That's no big deal. All right, let's go inside and take a look at the cabin, the king cab. It says it's the crew cab, but if I remember right, if it's a 4-door with the short bed, it is a king cab and not just the crew cab with the long bed. It does have the bed extender. I know I said we were going inside, but it's got a lot of Nissan options. Somebody went all the way in speccing this truck out. So the supercharged option was already a big checkbox on your order sheet there, but then it's got the flip over bed organizer, bed extender there, so you can tie stuff back to this. If you put a motorcycle in here, usually you can get the back tire up against that. It flips over once the tailgate's open. It's actually pretty cool. I had this in my Titan, my very first Titan, and it was awesome. Nissan does do a few cool things every once in a while. It has the plastic Nissan bed liner, which is obviously a pretty cool option as well, being the factory drop-in bed liner there. Tailgate doesn't shut though. There we go. You gotta send that tailgate. 2001 is the facelifted Frontier. It has a different front end. It finally looks kind of like a modern truck. I gotta give them that. They did a great job on the design. I think the Supercharger kit added cool things like the wide body on here. This is actually only a 2-wheel drive truck, but it should have some power, and it does look pretty aggressive with these big wide body flares. And these are factory. I know they're the wrong color. They've all been repainted, I think, and the paintwork is what you would call not good. But it does have wide body fender flares from the factory, and it really pulls them off. I think it adds a lot to the truck's look. So now let's head in here and see what it's like living in the lap of luxury in 2001 mini trucking. Starting here on the door, we've got power windows all the way around, and the driver window is auto, which is pretty cool. Door locks right there, window locks right there, and this even has components. It's got tweeters up in the top of the door panel, and of course the main woofer a little bit lower in the door. There's a bunch of map pockets, and the rest of this thing is pretty simple. There's no auto climate, nothing like that. It has single manual climate control. It has a button for defrost. Power mirrors. Power mirrors were probably pretty cool back then, I'd say. A security light for the built-in security system or immobilizer on the Frontier. That's probably a little bit rare there. And then it has cruise control and also steering wheel audio controls. This is 2001 in a cheap truck, so steering wheel audio controls were probably pretty rare. Another fancy option in 01 was probably these fog lights. You can turn them on and off with that inner ring, and of course headlights, everything else over here as you'd expect. We have the wiper controls right there. So in the center, you can see our climate control, very simple. And then we have this Kenwood radio that doesn't work. I tried to power that on during the inspection, and again, driving it a moment ago, and it does not come on at all. So there's something wrong with the radio. You do have an epic center console for back in the day. So we've got dual cup holders here. These were definitely supposed to be rubber lined or something like that, and those are missing. A big old holder here that's a little bit rubberized to hold whatever you need. You've got an aftermarket pocket under the single din. I'm sure the factory head unit was a double din, so that gives you even more storage. Down here you've got the smoker's package, ashtray, and the lighter probably went there, but it is missing. And then another pocket down here, another pocket here, and also 12-volt accessory power. This truck is storage heavy, and that doesn't even include this giant center console. It's pretty deep with an armrest and everything else. So in 01, I would say this was a crazy truck to have. Glove box has the manual in it still and the wheel locks, so that's nice at least. And we also, I know the window sticker is hiding out in here somewhere, so let's take a look at that. Always nice to have the original window sticker from the truck. If I remember right, this was a one owner, but it has 184,000 miles on the clock. So if it was truly one owner, that guy drove it forever. So we have all kinds of options like LCD trip odometer, stuff that you would just expect every car on the road to have this stuff these days. They barely even list what size the screen is anymore because we just expect these things to be good. But we've got a 100-watt AM/FM CD audio system with 6 speakers. That was definitely a cool option there. This thing was sold at Courtesy Nissan in Richardson, Texas. And over here in the options list, it was originally $22,500 when it was new. Aztec red, that's also kind of cool. 2001 Supercharged Frontier. Like I said, the refresh, this was the first year you could buy the Supercharger. This is the Supercharger value package. and that thing adds a ton to this car. $1,549 is all this cost, but it gave you leather seats, a 6 CD changer, steering wheel controls, vehicle security, cruise control, pop-up sunroof with a sunshade, tilt steering wheel, supercharger floor mats. Those are unfortunately missing. The supercharger seats are actually really cool and probably rare. Bedliner CC under the rail, that was $309. The floor mats were $80 more, and the bed extender, $229 more. Also, there's a cabin air filter that was $40. So $2,244 is what this thing cost. I will say, in today's money, that I think it buys you like the base Maverick, like the start of the Maverick, because a Maverick with options is 40 grand. I do want to mention those special seats that I talked about. They say SC in them for Supercharged. And it also has red stitching in the leather, that was rare back in the day too. Custom stitching, custom seats. It does have a few cool things. And that pop-up sunroof is also very nice. You can remove the sunshade, and I think you could actually take the sunroof all the way out. There's a little button here that lets you disconnect the whole latch, and then I think the glass could come out. But if you have this, the rails for the roof rack actually hit the sunroof every time you try to open it. I guess you could slide this thing back a hair, and then maybe the sunroof would open more. But right now, you can only open it until you know, the normal detent, and that's as far as it's going. Otherwise, you're gonna hit the metal. Let's open the back up here. These seats are actually in really good condition, and it does have rear cup holders as well. Possibly the lap of luxury for a 2001 mini truck. So, now that you've seen the truck, let's talk about what's wrong with this truck. First of all, everything inside it is covered with nice slimy Armor All, a very used car dealer thing to do. I can't stand the feel of that stuff. It makes me want to wash my hands right now. It's all over me. And they've done a lot of other things just like that. So we'll start with some of the most egregious ones. This fuse holder here, this cover for the fuse panel is, it's here, but it's from a different truck and it's a different interior color and it doesn't fit very well. So at least we have it, but it falls out. So it's got that going for it. All of the plastic up here in the cowl and even the wiper arms has been brushed black. You can see it looks horrible. So that won't last very long. It should have been spray painted with Duplicolor or SEM trim paint. Either one of those would have been a great option and they would have held up. And the funny thing is, I always pull wiper arms and paint them. Like, how do you not? And they didn't. They just painted the face and then they left the rest. Like, you... They left the rest. They also did this on the front grille to the truck. I think these are actually supposed to bolt on, and they lost all the caps that cover, there's beauty caps that cover up the fasteners for the wide body. As we mentioned, of course, the distributor cap bolts were backing out during the test drive. There's a bunch of lights on the dash. We'll get into those in just a minute. Of course, the radio doesn't work like I showed you guys. The windshield is broken. Power steering's leaking somewhere. We don't know where yet. It's covered in hail and dents. I understand that you can't buy these things, but used car dealers, man. Let's take a look at some of that paint work right now. I have to show you guys. You can see on this mirror cap, all the clear is gone. That's nobody's fault. That's just old failing paint, but let's get into some of the other crazy stuff. The fender flares have been repainted. It's a different shade of red. It is not Aztec red. It's actually deeper, and it makes it look like it's plasticky there. You can see there's dents all the way down the bed rails as we move, and the roof. Somebody was setting stuff on the roof there. And then my favorite ones are back here on the rear passenger door, where they painted the wrong color of red onto the door and tried to sand that smooth. So there's no rust or anything like that. It is a Kansas truck. You can see the underbody looks incredible. It's got some things going for it, but they did some bad things to this truck. I feel bad for it. The flares that didn't get repainted have clear peel all the way along them, so it would honestly be nice to pull all the flares off this truck and clean them all up. As I mentioned before, my mom brought this over and I scanned it when she did, and there were some codes. So the scanner says there were 14, but the fun ones here are front left-hand sensor, wheel speed sensor, and front right-hand wheel speed sensor short, and the ABS lights on. And I looked at the sensors and they've both been replaced, which is horrible news. Somebody's been trying to fix it and failing. Throttle position sensor codes, automatic transmission, first gear function code, knock sensor bank 1 twice. That one may be fixed. That might have been caused by, you know, something pre-tune-up, because clearly they did a bunch of work to this to try to solve that. Another code for throttle position sensor, that's had 5 reoccurrences. 0420, because every car in non-emission states just has an 0420 on. And first gear ratio incorrect, that's an interesting one. Thermostat function is also a code that's set, and I think that's accurate as well because it takes a long time to warm up. All the other codes are repeats, so we're going to go ahead and call that right there. I should probably clear the codes and see what happens with the ABS light there. There's a chance that maybe they just didn't have a good scanner and they left those codes set. Who knows? So we will find out. And we're also going to try to fix a bunch of other things on this and get it tuned up to see if it can live again. And another cool thing, my mom already went to Nissan and they sell these color matched plugs for the wide body kit. When you see this thing without the covers on the wide body kit, it kind of hurts your eyes a little bit, so we can fix that. Anyway, I want to take a second here and tell you guys all the other names this truck is sold under, because it's pretty funny. Like I said, it's sold in a bunch of other countries. I've got the list pulled up, and one of the craziest things is this thing was called the Nissan Datsun. And if you guys know anything about Nissan, originally it was Datsun, and they changed their name to Nissan. Why would you call this the Nissan Datsun? It's like an oxymoron or a past-future conundrum. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, then it was the Nissan Frontier, the Nissan NP300, the Nissan Fiera, the Nissan Hardbody, which honestly makes no sense because the old generation was called the Hardbody. It was also called the Nissan Pickup. It was actually branded as these things. It just makes no sense. Nissan Terrano, Nissan Winter, that one's pretty funny. Nissan Skystar, Big M Frontier, Nissan Exciter. So exciting. And then the Dongfeng Rich, that one's pretty good. The Peugeot Pickup, the Giad Pickup, and the Bamo Pickup. So it's got some crazy names in different parts of the world. Anyway, it's got 13 of them, basically. So that is it for today, guys. Stay tuned in the next episodes as we try to get a couple of things fixed on this. Obviously, we're going to clear the codes and see what comes back. Hopefully the knock sensor code's gone. I don't know what's going to go on with the ABS system. There's a chance it's going to need a whole ABS computer. There's a chance this car is going to need a lot of stuff. So we're going to add up all of the prices to fix everything after I do a little bit of troubleshooting on here and decide whether this is getting sold or whether it's being given to a family friend of ours, which was the whole idea for the truck anyway. That's the reason they bought it. They wanted a small old truck, and obviously, like I said, you can't really buy that unless you buy a Maverick today. So we'll find out together. That is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to head on over to shop.WatchJRGo.com for cool shirts, not like this. And please like, share, subscribe, do whatever you want to do, and I will talk to you next time. First, the radio. The radio is like #1 on my list here. I just need to get the thing out of the dash and get a meter in there and do a little troubleshooting. I can't believe that the radio doesn't work. That does not happen in general. Even aftermarket radios, they just always work, and I don't understand how this one's broken. It seems like they did an okay job. Maybe the steering wheel controls work too. That'd be really cool.